They asked the black son of a famous singer to sing as a joke. What happened next shocked everyone. The laughter started before he even opened his mouth. In a crowded school auditorium, a young black boy was pushed toward the stage, singled out not for his talent but as the target of a cruel joke. He was the son of a world-famous singer, yet to his classmates, that fact only made him more of a target. Teachers smirked, students whispered, waiting for him to embarrass himself. No one believed he could live up to the shadow of his father. But when the microphone touched his lips, the sound that poured out left the room frozen. Every laugh silenced in an instant. Marcus Johnson had always lived under the heavy weight of his father's fame. His dad, Raymond Johnson, was a legendary soul singer whose voice filled concert halls and topped charts around the world. But fame did not protect Marcus in the small suburban school he attended. In fact, it made life harder. His father's celebrity was seen as a joke by many of his peers, especially because Marcus was quiet, reserved, and far from the spotlight. At 12 years old, Marcus had already learned to keep to himself. He avoided conflict, stayed in the back of classrooms, and tried to blend into the background. But no matter how hard he tried, his father's name followed him everywhere. Teachers would ask if he could sing, students would tease him about inheriting talent, and bullies would push him to perform like a circus act. One Friday morning, the school announced a talent show. Students were encouraged to sign up and showcase their gifts. For Marcus, it was just another event he planned to avoid. But a group of boys from his class decided to sign him up without his consent. They wrote his name on the list, adding a smirk to the announcement, "Marcus Johnson, singing." The auditorium roared with laughter when his name was called. He wanted to disappear. But when the day arrived, there was no escape. His name was on the program. The spotlight was waiting. The day of the talent show arrived, and Marcus's stomach churned with anxiety. He hadn't told his father. He hadn't told his mother. He sat in the back row of the auditorium as acts came and went. Comedy skits, dance routines, piano solos. His classmates performed with confidence, cheered on by their friends. Then came the moment. Next up, Marcus Johnson, singing. The MC announced it with a chuckle, and the audience followed with laughter. All eyes turned toward him. He froze. His knees felt weak, his hands shook, and a voice inside begged him to run. But the boys who signed him up were in the front row, grinning, waiting to see him fall apart. As he walked to the stage, whispers filled the air. He's not like his dad. Bet he's awful. This is going to be funny. Even some teachers leaned in, curious, with smirks tugging at their lips. Marcus picked up the microphone. His palms were sweaty, his throat dry. The lights blinded him, and for a moment he considered pretending to faint, just to escape. But then, in his mind, he heard the voice of his father. Years earlier, when Marcus had shyly hummed along to the radio, his dad had placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Your voice is a gift, son. Don't ever let anyone take it from you." He took a deep breath, and then he began. At first, a single note floated through the auditorium, soft, trembling, almost fragile. The audience leaned in, expecting to laugh, but within seconds, the fragility turned into power. Marcus's voice rose, smooth yet commanding, carrying the weight of generations before him. It wasn't a childish sound. It was rich, soulful, and hauntingly beautiful. The auditorium fell silent. The whispers stopped. Teachers straightened in their seats. Even the bullies in the front row sat stunned. The sound that filled the room wasn't an imitation of his father. It was uniquely Marcus. And with every note, his confidence grew. By the time he reached the chorus, the room was breathless. His voice soared, echoing through the rafters, washing over every corner of the auditorium. What was supposed to be a cruel prank had transformed into a moment no one could look away from. When Marcus finished, the last note lingered in the air, like a spell. For a long, heavy second, no one moved. The silence was deafening. Then, without warning, the entire auditorium erupted. Applause, cheers, and even shouts of disbelief. Some students stood on their feet, clapping wildly. Teachers who had smirked were now wiping away tears. The bullies in the front row sat frozen, their faces pale, their laughter gone. They had wanted a joke, but what they got was a performance that would be remembered for years. Marcus stood on stage, overwhelmed. For the first time in his young life, he wasn't in his father's shadow. He was standing in his own light. He bowed awkwardly, his heart pounding as the cheers washed over him. The humiliation they had planned had backfired spectacularly. In the back of the auditorium, a teacher whispered, "That boy has something special." And she was right. In one moment, Marcus had turned cruelty into triumph. That day changed Marcus forever. The same students who once mocked him now looked at him with respect, even awe. The bullies avoided eye contact, their smug grins erased. Teachers began encouraging him, offering support for his talent. But more importantly, Marcus had proven something to himself. He learned that his identity, the son of a famous black singer, wasn't a curse or a target for mockery. It was part of his legacy, a reminder that his voice mattered. He didn't need to run from his father's shadow because he had his own light to shine. Word of his performance spread quickly through the school. Within days, clips recorded on shaky cell phones circulated online, gaining attention far beyond the auditorium walls. Strangers praised his courage, his voice, and his ability to rise above cruelty. But for Marcus, the greatest victory wasn't the applause or the attention. It was the realization that he had faced humiliation head-on and transformed it into power. He had shown his classmates and himself that he was not defined by mockery, but by resilience, courage, and talent. Years later, Marcus would reflect on that day as the turning point in his life. It wasn't just about singing. It was about reclaiming his dignity, confronting racism and cruelty, and discovering the strength within him. And as the echoes of his song lingered in the memories of those who witnessed it, one truth remained clear. Sometimes, the very stage meant to humiliate you becomes the place where you rise the highest.